Welcome to The Debate. Today, we're opening the dossier on a narrative that really sits at the razor's edge of psychological thriller and corporate noir. I'm talking about the Memory Vow. The story centers on the wedding day of Kate Reynolds and David Thompson, and it presents us with just this terrifying tableau.
It really does. I mean, you have a bride who, over the course of a single morning, uncovers a whole conspiracy. We're talking gaslighting, murder, toxic waste cover-ups. And yet, the entire story culminates in this one single, incredibly polarizing action. Kate walking down the aisle to marry the man she now knows is a monster.
Exactly. A monster who is actually Daniel Thorne, a man with a new identity and, blood on his hands.
Right. And it's a harrowing case study in coercive control. We're looking at a protagonist who is being systematically dismantled by this machinery of power that extends far beyond just a bad partner.
Precisely. And that brings us to the central question we are debating today. When Kate Reynolds rejects an offer of escape from the head of security and chooses to proceed with the ceremony, what are we witnessing? I'm going to argue that we are seeing a masterstroke of agency, a calculated Trojan horse strategy, where Kate uses the wedding as a trap to record David's confession and expose him.
And I come at it from a completely different angle. I see that walk down the aisle not a strategy, but as a completely fatalistic submission. The evidence, to me, suggests Kate has been completely outmaneuvered, isolated, and stripped of her allies. By walking into that ceremony, she isn't springing a trap, she's walking right into one, playing directly into David's so-called contingency plans.
Okay, I can see why you'd think that, especially given the bleakness of the opening chapters. But let me offer a different perspective on Kate's mental state. My position is that Kate has successfully broken the cycle of gaslighting. Throughout the morning, the fog lifts, and it really starts with the physical evidence. She finds the bloody fingerprints on the wedding veil, prints with that distinctive break in the index finger that match Emma Carter, her missing friend. Then she finds the jade hairpin hidden in the bridal cottage, also stained with blood. These aren't just clues, they are cognitive anchors.
They are anchors, yes. But anchors can also drown you. Finding blood on your wedding veil doesn't necessarily grant clarity, it induces terror. And we have to look at her physiological state. She's sleep-deprived, she's been drugged with vitamins that are likely sedatives, and she is undergoing a massive trauma response. When she touches that hairpin, is she grounded, or is she just spiraling?
But look at the text. Once Kate holds that object, it explicitly says the fog of doubt lifted. It's a moment of crystallization. She realizes she didn't hurt Emma during a blackout. David did. And the pivot point is the confrontation in the library. This is crucial. Kate isn't cowering, she's performing. She secretly sets her phone to record, and then she baits David. She maneuvers him into revealing details about the crime scene, specifically the arterial spray on the bathroom tiles, that only the killer could know. She captures his confession. That diamond bracelet he puts on her wrist, it stops being a shackle and becomes a symbol of her clarity. She sees the game and she decides to play it better than him.
Playing it better implies she has a winning hand. But, let's look at the scoreboard by the time the wedding mark starts. Gaining knowledge does not equal gaining power, especially in the world that David Thompson, or Daniel Thorne, has built. Systematically, Kate's entire support system has been surgically removed. Claire, her best friend and maid of honor, has vanished. A supposed family emergency that the wedding planner notes made her flustered, which is totally out of character.
Right.
Then Detective Johnson, the one law enforcement officer on her side, was forcibly ejected from the property by Richard Williams, the corrupt lawyer. She is utterly isolated.
She is isolated physically, perhaps, but she possesses the recording. That's a digital weapon.
Is it a recording on a phone in the pocket of a wedding dress, while she's surrounded by David's security and his family? That is an incredibly precarious position. And what's more, David anticipates her rebellion. In the library, he produces a forged confession letter, written in what looks like Kate's own handwriting, admitting to killing Emma. He explicitly uses her fear of blackouts against her. He tells her, "I've invested too much in you, Kate. You don't get to walk away." When she walks down that aisle, she is physically and legally trapped on the Hawthorne estate. She isn't engaging in strategy. She's surviving the immediate threat of a man who has already killed to protect his secrets.
That's an interesting point, though I would frame the isolation differently. The removal of her allies is exactly why she must walk down the aisle. If she runs, she's just the unstable runaway bride David has painted her as. She feeds his narrative. But if we really want to understand her mindset, we have to look at the memory vow ritual itself. This is, I think, the thematic core of the whole narrative.
Well, it's a mechanism of control, plain and simple.
Or the mechanism of liberation. The ritual required them to write their secrets and burn them. David intended to use the ashes to frame Kate, to plant that forged confession. But remember what she found in the alcove? She found an unburnt fragment of David's true confession. "I know what really happened to Emma." That physical proof is the antidote to the gaslighting. She realizes her episodes are manufactured. She possesses the truth that David is not her savior, but the perpetrator. This knowledge gives her the moral fortitude to turn the ceremony into a stage. She isn't confused anymore.
I'm just not convinced by that, because it assumes David doesn't know she found it. The text suggests David is hypervigilant. He even mentions her visit to the garden alcove during that library confrontation. He knows she was there. So I'd argue David successfully weaponized the ritual regardless of what she found. He used the disturbed ashes story to introduce his own forged evidence against her. And just consider the power dynamic. He admits to the crimes in the library, yes, but he does it with this terrifying confidence. He believes that by marrying her, he traps her in spousal privilege, or just mutual destruction. If she goes down, he ensures she goes down for Emma's murder. He is still controlling the narrative, even as he confesses.
But he confesses to the recording. That's the variable he didn't account for. Narcissists, they often fail because they underestimate their victims. He thinks he's talking to a terrified woman, but he's talking to a digital witness. And this links to the deeper motivation here, which shifts the whole genre from a domestic thriller to corporate noir. The Westlake cover-up.
The chemical scandal.
Exactly. This isn't just a domestic dispute. We learned from the files in the briefcase, which was locked with the code 618, their wedding date, just a chilling detail of his narcissism, that David is Daniel Thorne. He covered up a chemical spill that killed 3 children. Kate's realization isn't just that she's marrying a bad partner, it's that she is marrying a corporate sociopath. The text describes her feeling a cold clarity. She isn't just saving herself, she is seeking justice for Emma and for the Westlake victims. That moral weight is what propels her forward. She realizes running away leaves him in power. Marrying him, or at least getting to the altar, is the only way to get close enough to destroy him.
That's a compelling moral argument, but practically, the scale of the opposition is just overwhelming. You mention Westlake, but that proves my point about her being outmaneuvered. She isn't fighting one man, she's fighting a syndicate. We have Richard Williams, the fixer, who managed to silence a police investigation. We have Judy, the mother-in-law, who physically threatens Kate in a gazebo, literally digging her nails into Kate's arm and saying Emma was going to destroy everything.
Judy is certainly an active enforcer, yeah.
She is the gatekeeper. When Judy makes that call saying, she knows, make it happen, she's the one who initiates the purge of Kate's allies. And let's not forget the USB drive. Kate and Claire found the security footage of David entering Emma's apartment, the smoking gun. But then Kate gets that text from Detective Johnson, USB evidence missing, Williams has it. The one piece of hard external evidence is gone. So Kate is walking down the aisle alone, without the drive, into a room filled with David's family and security. That looks less like a Trojan horse and more like a suicide mission.
I see the danger, absolutely. But I think you are underestimating Kate's resilience. Let's look at the climax, the wedding procession itself. This is the moment of truth.
The moment the trap snaps shut.
Or the moment she springs hers.
Look at the interaction with Tom Mitchell. Tom is the head of security, a man with a military background who has clearly been conducting his own investigation. He stands by the side door and offers her an out, a nod, a way to run, and Kate refuses.
She hesitates.
She refuses. She shakes her head. Why? I mean, if she were acting out of pure fear or submission, she would take the exit. Running is the instinct of the prey. Staying is the instinct of the hunter. She realizes that if she runs, she becomes a fugitive. David has the forged confession. He has the narrative of her instability. He would spin the story of a psychotic runaway bride who killed her friend. She chooses the harder path. She proceeds because she needs to be a witness, not a fugitive. She needs that recording to be played.
I interpret Tom's offer very differently. Tom offers an escape because he knows she is walking into a meat grinder. By refusing, she isn't becoming a hunter, she's succumbing to the paralysis of the situation. Look at the details of the procession. The text describes her legs feeling like concrete. She stumbles. And then, the ultimate power move by David. He breaks tradition. He doesn't wait at the altar, he walks up the aisle to meet her.
It creates a scene, certainly.
It's dominance. He physically takes her arm. He wipes a tear from her cheek and says, loud enough for her father to hear, "Your mascara is running, darling." Too emotional? He is actively discrediting her sanity in real time in front of 200 witnesses. He's tightening the leash. He whispers, "I've invested too much in you." That is not the dialogue of a man walking into a trap. That is a man securing his asset.
But that dominance is exactly what blinds him. He thinks she's crying because she's broken. She's crying because she's terrified, but also determined. And we have to talk about the Emma sighting. This is absolutely crucial to interpreting her mental state.
It's the most ambiguous moment in the entire text.
I don't think so. As Kate walks down the aisle, she sees a woman in the back row. Dark hair, familiar posture, and she sees the jade hairpin. I argue this validates Kate's sanity. We know from the florist that Emma was alive 3 days ago. We know there was a photo of Emma meeting David. I would posit that Emma is alive, she is in that room, and she is the ultimate ace up Kate's sleeve. Kate stumbles not out of fear, but out of shock and maybe hope.
I just find that incredibly optimistic. Let's apply Occam's razor here. Kate has been under immense psychological strain. She's been gaslit, medicated, and hasn't slept. She just found out her fiancé is a murderer. Seeing Emma in the back row wearing the very hairpin Kate found covered in blood mere hours ago, that screams hallucination. It's a projection of her fracturing psyche, or worse, it's another mind game. Maybe David hired a lookalike to push her over the edge right before the vows. If Emma is alive, why would she sit in the back row of the wedding of the man who tried to kill her? It makes no tactical sense. It just indicates that Kate is an unreliable narrator at this point, which strengthens the idea that she is walking into this blindly.
Let's consider the hairpin again, though. Kate found one in the cottage with blood on it. Claire took it. If Kate sees a woman wearing one, it could be Emma signaling she survived. It fits the theme of the book, the memory vow. The vow is to the truth. Emma is the truth. If Emma is there, David's entire narrative just collapses.
Or, if Kate is hallucinating, David's narrative of her insanity is confirmed. And let's look at the physical reality of the altar. Richard Williams is there, the security guards are there, the doors are closed. Kate has a phone with a recording, but who is she going to play it for? The governor? David's mother? She is surrounded by enemies.
She is surrounded by witnesses. That is the key difference. In the library, he could kill her. In the garden, he could threaten her. But in the sanctuary, in front of the governor and 200 guests, he is constrained by the very image he's trying to protect. He can't hurt her there.
He doesn't need to hurt her there. He just needs her to say, "I do." Once she says those words, spousal privilege attaches. Once she says those words, she is legally bound to the Thorne-Thompson syndicate. He can deal with the recording later. He's dealt with worse. He dealt with Westlake.
That assumes the wedding proceeds all the way to the vows. We're debating the intent of the walk. My position remains that Kate has successfully turned the wedding into a stage for David's destruction. She played the role of the submissive bride to lull a narcissist into complacency. He believes he has won. That arrogance is his fatal flaw. She walks down that aisle with the recording of his murder confession in her pocket.
She isn't walking to her marriage, she's walking to the prosecutor's office, figuratively speaking.
And I maintain that the risks are just too high. With the USB drive gone, intercepted by Williams, that recording is the only thing she has. And she is walking toward the man who knows exactly how to manipulate her phone, her mind, and her surroundings. By rejecting Tom's offer of escape, she threw away her only guaranteed safety. She is walking into a legal and physical trap where the vows might just seal her fate rather than free her.
But that bet is the only one that offers justice. Running saves her skin but leaves Emma unavenged and the Westlake crimes buried.
Justice is a noble goal, but survival is a prerequisite for it. I fear Kate has sacrificed the latter for a very slim chance at the former.
Well, we are at the end of our time, but this story, I think, illustrates the terrifying power of memory manipulation. It really asks us to question how much of our reality is constructed by those around us.
Indeed, and it highlights the resilience required to trust your own mind against a constructed reality. But it also warns us that sometimes the system is stronger than the individual, no matter how brave.
We encourage you to review the evidence yourselves. When reality is manipulated, is the only way out to play along?
Or is playing along just another way of digging your own grave?
Thank you for joining the debate.
Until next time.